Recording in progress, guys.
It is
So,
5:37.
Oh, don't put these in front of me.
all right, guys, welcome to the 16th, 18th,
19th,
19th. Oh, you reported to the 18th, so we got
18th then.
change it. 18th public meeting of the ad hoc charter review and revision board. Clerk, going to take the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Band.
Here.
Ms. Basner.
Yeah.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Present.
Ms. Latone.
Present.
Mr. Raven.
Present.
Mrs. Sarton.
Here.
Sir, you have a full board.
Excellent. Well, welcome, everybody. Welcome our guests. Commissioner Magazine is here as well. We have an agenda that is hopefully pretty straightforward. First item is the acceptance of the minutes from the March 4th.
Mr.
charter
Chair,
review.
you had a correction to make.
I
If
do.
you could-
Yes, I do have a correction I wanted to make, and I think it's page 5 of the minutes. It indicates that I said that there had never been an experience where the mayor's race flipped from a general election to a raw. I said it was one time where that has happened in the 30 some odd years. So I should reflect that accurately. That was David Dermer in the Langevin race of 2001.
And we will make that correction.
With that, is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second, motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
Mr. Chair,
Abstain, because I wasn't at the meeting. Sam Raven has abstained.
I have,
Sam, you actually can't abstain.
If I wasn't meeting?
If you're here, the only reason you could abstain is if you had a conflict, so you can't abstain.
Well, so what if I can't vote on a meeting or minutes of a meeting that I didn't attend? What do I do?
You can vote on the minute.
You can vote.
Then I'm saying they're correct when I wasn't at the meeting.
Well, then you can vote no.
You can go to the bathroom. You can go to the bathroom while we vote.
I take back my abstention. I agree.
Unanimous. Unanimous, Russ.
Mr. Chair, I also have this meeting and the one prior, we have not concluded the minutes. So I request permission from this board to present them to the chair. And if he says they're okay, accept those minutes. We can do that for acclamation.
Is that something you're comfortable with?
It's fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
we want to leave those minutes floating for 10 years. First order of business at the next charter review meeting. is To find out that Sam couldn't vote on the minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right, so we've got that. Commissioner, you're here. We have, the next order of business is really to discuss the final report, but I want to extend the courtesy if you. wanna address the committee or anything like that.
Yep, thank you.
It's impossible to do that, but we will go forward to item number 2.
My daughter tries it all the time, so.
Yeah. All right, so then, and I guess some people in your cars sometimes do that too, right? All in good. Okay, so item 2 is the final draft report of our recommendations that we will hopefully intend to transmit to the commission. I've looked at these, I had an opportunity to give edits to the staff. I think it's in really good order, but today's the day that we should spend time making sure that we're comfortable with everything that's in here as a report and that it reflects our intentions and what we wanted to do. Before today, I wrote up a little piece that I wanted to insert into the intro at the bottom near the conclusion that tries to kind of thematically, group the amendments into kind of our efforts, transparency, protection of public land, opportunities for public input, just kind of grouping the various amendments so they don't just float out as 9 different amendments. They do reflect a theme that I think we all participate in. So if I can just share this, and if you're all good with it, we can figure out where exactly it belongs, but sorry I didn't get it too soon, but it really was 30 minutes ago. Let me keep going.
Good.
Sure, I'll give you the last just in case.
I suppose while you're getting this, have you all had a chance to read the report? I thought this group did a good job putting it together and
60 hours, almost 60 hours.
60 hours.
You're right.
Thank you.
One comment also in addition to what's going out, this is more editorial. When we list the people that came to speak to us.
Mhm.
We list like 10 or 12. Title first and then name, and then the last couple, name first and then title. Pick one and be consistent.
Okay.
I have no preference either way, but whatever you wanna do, let's just, you know.
Sure.
Oh, okay. You see how at the bottom, we start to do name first? It might, name first might be better, but I don't defer to.
I like name first too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, big name first. Major decision.
We'll take care of that.
Okay, so that's on page 2448.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
then this-
in any particular order, like.
We did,
alphabetical,
well, what I did here, I wrote the introduction and background section, so naturally I started with the commissioners first. Then I started with senior staff. Senior staff and the attorneys. Charter officers, we have Joe, okay, so those are the city charter officers. Then we have the two past chairmen and members of the Charter Review Committee. The committee members, the homeowners association members. And finally, the outside organizations that are not city related, the housing authority and the two county organizations. So that's kind of the order that I did it in. That was concerted. Okay,
Sure.
I wanted to put us first.
I think this might fit right before we go to through and through. It has been a collaborative effort, if you're all.
Yeah,
comfortable
I
with
was
something like
thinking the
this.
same thing, George, that we do that as a separate paragraph there.
Right. And it just tries to
You see where?
put some thematic
Yeah, I
comments
think it's
to
a good addition.
the,
It's a good addition.
to the 9 questions that we're recommending. Anybody have? You like to
Yeah,
do the grade?
I have a legal question on amendment 4.
Okay.
Because, this is the one we spent a lot of time on. Last meeting, and then we were basically told by, we were advised that, the elections, supervisor of elections had mixed our idea of having the mayor run off after, 4 weeks after. So just the one question is, if either the commission or the voters do not accept our amendment, then where are we? Are we not in the same place? And so, again, I kind of question whether whether the supervisor of elections has considered it as carefully as I would like, because this may not get approved by voters, and then what?
Well.
I would like you to answer, but I just start by saying the supervisor of elections, her priority is that there be at least 4 weeks between the general and the runoff. So there's discussion about when those elections occur. But this iteration, so the question that this board is recommending provides for 4 weeks. There is an alternative. Which Jean can walk you through.
Well, the alternative that Nick is referring to is not for purposes of the board's deliberation today respectfully, because you have your recommendation. When there is the briefings with the individual members of the city commission, because of the fact stemming exactly from what Ron said, that the election supervisor has said, this is not an option. The city must change its election cycle to provide for at least a minimum 4-week gap between the general and the runoff. When
It's further said, October, November is what. the
That's
preference
right.
is.
That's
So
right.
it's
If
not
the city decides to keep odd numbered years, if the decision of the city commission is to switch to even numbered years, then correct my Ralph, my understanding is that the supervisor is suggesting following the state and county cycle, which would be the general election at the time of the primary in August
August and
and the
November.
runoff at time of the general election in state, which would be basically our present.
That's what
Election
she
date, November.
supplied, yes.
Right, but the recommendation of this board is to maintain the odd numbered year cycle and to move our election cycle from the first Tuesday in November and 2 weeks thereafter the runoff to the first Tuesday in October for the general, for the mayor.
Right.
And for the first Tuesday in October be the mayoral runoff and the date of the city commissioners' general election. And there would be no runoff for city commissioners because the proposal of this board is that unlike the mayoral election, which is retaining the majority vote scenario that members of the governing body are elected now, the majority vote requirement would still apply to the mayor, but not for members of the city commissioners. The city commissioners would be a plurality vote, which is the highest vote getter,
It's 3 vote getters.
the highest,
Or
however
three
many
open seats.
vacant seats there are. So back to what Ron pointed out, which is a very important question, right? What if the city commission approves this recommendation for placement on the ballot and the voters don't agree, and it's not approved? Then you are left with the existing election cycle, which again only provides for the 2-week gap. The supervisor has told us you have to have a 4-week gap. If the voters don't approve it, the city clerk will have a discussion with Christina and
Preempt,
Chrissy
the
go there.
supervisor can preempt that and
Yeah,
make
she
that
can.
decision for us. Okay.
She's gonna change it.
But here's the thing,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, we still have the charter language. We still have to comply with the charter language. Now, Christina may say from her perspective, I need a 4-week gap, but we think this is what she would say, right, Ralph? She's gonna say, I need a 4-week gap.
Set them.
Right, but I'm saying after the election.
Right.
If the voters don't approve of this, she may still say, I don't care how you do it.
Right.
We need to have a 4-week gap.
Right, but that
We
was my
then
question.
will have to decide, right, but we still have the charter to comply with, even though she will say,
That was my question, so.
oh,
If
well,
the
then-
supervisor of election says, we
I-
are not gonna do
Right.
in November and then 4
Right.
weeks later, just period,
right,
as
2
she
weeks
has
later.
said.
Yeah.
Then, what do we have to run our own election, or is it just that you say we can't comply with the charter because the supervisor of election has a charter officer?
well, that would obviously be our position, but we are thinking.
Well,
I'll let-
I think let's say we were in a situation where this measure, where the city commission submits this measure to the voters. And the voters reject it.
Mhm.
I think we would need to confer with the supervisor, but I think at least that first year, we could change the dates by ordinance. Could we not? Under that state law, even just a one time,
If it's a one-time,
one-time.
to bring you up to
In a
speed on that
regular year.
issue, right?
right?
Much like when Commissioner Samuelin passed. And Miami Beach had a special election to fill that vacancy. That was pursuant to a state statute that we've been discussing with you, that in certain limited instances, even though the election dates are set and the qualifying dates are set by charter, that there is a state statute that allows in certain limited instances, cities to change those dates by ordinance. It's not a charter amendment, but to change it. So that's what happened when we
But
filled that
a
vacancy.
permanent change?
A
or
permanent
a-
charter change would not
So
fall
it'd be a
under
one
that.
time,
That's
and
why,
that one-time vote would be, shall we move it to October and November and just keep everything else the
Or
same?
right,
or some other-
or November, December,
but
right?
to get a long-term fix,
We would need to submit a new
question.
revised
a new question, or again, depending upon the chief deputy's feelings on this and the city attorney's opinion, possibly filing a deck action to explain to the court that this is an impossibility for Miami Beach, the
Yeah.
voter, because what if you submit it to the voters again?
And it
And
keeps
they don't.
failing.
Because against the backdrop of this, and I apologize for repeating it, you've heard us talk to you about the limited abilities we have now to educate the public. The state legislature has curtailed the right of the city, which used to send out voters guide. We now have limited ability to do that. There are certain exceptions that allow the city to do that, but all of this combines for the fact that if the voters don't approve of this, it's very difficult to explain to the voters what this is about to then get a subsequent voter approval. And the alternate that the chief deputy was referring to was when we have our briefings with the city commission, we have in the same lines of an October, November election date, if the city commission, if the decision is under the supervisor's consult that you have to change your election date, that the city commission may feel in their discretion that the matter that will be put on the ballot will be an October, November election cycle, keeping everything else as is.
Yeah, that's a choice they
Right.
have.
Right.
So
Do you
that's
think
a-
they're gonna understand this anyway?
I think this issue, the alternative, they will understand. This is a tough
It is.
this is a tough ballot question. In the sense that we've had public meetings, public input, full opportunity for citizens and the public to voice their feelings on it. You've had full explanation, a lot of discussion, but this is a change that is not a simple change to understand. You've done everything that you can do pursuant to law to explain it to the board, and you've taken your vote after public opportunity to voice their opinions, but this is a complicated question to understand.
I think he's answered this, but I think that if it doesn't pass, it could be because voters don't wanna come out twice to vote. That they could, because if they, the only time they'd have to come out twice is if there's a runoff. And the way we've structured this is every year they're gonna have to come
Yeah,
out twice.
But that doesn't change.
No, Ron,
I mean, that's how it is now.
Go back,
No,
you
no,
know,
I
for,
don't-
go
now
back
it-
for
now
history in the beach and there's always a runoff.
Yeah.
Go back 30 years or more and there's always been a runoff.
Well,
So sooner or later, they always come out twice. Whether it's mandated or by action, it always ends up that way.
Right, although if we're successful in getting rid of this idea of people running for specific seats, then you've eliminated the need, you're gonna
That
eliminate the
additional-
runoff for commissioners, because it's the top three. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right,
I think we're at the-
I think this one.
Present our recommendation and, the commission will determine in their best wisdom what is or isn't. The outcome as you laid out, if it fails and that one time question allows it. The bigger question is always, well, what if it keeps failing? How do you deal with that?
Right,
Right.
well, obviously, you cannot.
Just goes back
Think
to the-
continuously keep amending your charter by ordinance. We haven't looked at it, and
Yeah.
I'm just speaking off the top of my
Yeah,
head,
it's
but
unlikely.
obviously, the bigger suggestion is you need to have a charter amendment, you need to have a fix.
Yeah.
So that this
Yeah,
does not.
ultimately, it
Yeah.
needs to be fixed, not.
Right,
I'm inclined to go with what we've all reached as a unanimous, and then, that's our recommendation.
Yeah.
Others choose to vote for it, great, not vote for it. The commission chooses to put it on the ballot or not.
Just
We
goes
did our
back to the
job.
way it was
Right.
and Christina comes in and says, guess what, get 4 weeks.
There was a time when the city conducted its own election, I don't know if you want to go there, but that was a long time.
You could consider transmitting, this is your recommendation, but in the alternative, should the city commission elect not to submit this to the voters, or should it go to the voters and fail, that the city commission,
I think that's, that's understood.
okay,
I don't think we need to put it on our report and
okay,
make it, kind of a compromise or whatever. This is what I think we want to recommend. And the other alternatives, we spent many hours on it. So that's my.
Okay.
I don't understand why we would wanna
Watered down.
redo it now. The commission's gonna have the opportunity to engage and discuss this, they can accept it, reject it, do whatever they wanna do. But I kind of get the feeling, at least based on past experience, what will happen is the more likely than not, the electorate will either support all the amendments or they won't. And I think trying to micromanage this is not particularly our job. We're offering our best suggestion. The commission can agree, not agree, and the constituency out there will make the final determination.
right,
And we are available Well, the question for you guys is, you know, once we've transmitted this, you know, if, I don't know, the Chamber of Commerce or MBU or some other local organization wants a presentation or information on why did the Charter Review Committee recommend X or explain why to us? Is that something that we have as members the purview to go and do, or how do you guys govern that?
I think that, well, this is your last meeting. But I think that if the board wanted, you know, to appoint one person, say the chairman. To
No, not
be
just
able
me, I mean, I think,
to be
we,
able,
you know,
well, I'm just saying, I think it'd be good for that, I think the board should have that discussion. And if, you know, if an organization asks for a presentation. By members of the board, it might, maybe, you know, I think there's a question for the board here is. Who should make those presentations?
You had said that we're limited in terms of it there, explain these amendments to the public, but my understanding was the city can still put out some kind of informal pamphlet or something like this. Is that right?
What we can no longer do is direct communicate, so we can no longer do a voter's guide. The way we used to in the past.
But there was something we could do, and what was
we,
that?
we could like do
In a
can
public
do
forum,
a public forum. We could
Yes.
video it and then put it on the website.
Right,
and things like that,
Yes.
and then push it
Yes, you know,
if
the
want
main restriction is using public
money.
resources.
to advocate
So,
here.
you know, you all are volunteers and thank you for that. You know, so that's not using public resources. But even in a public forum, you know, using lights, electricity, but there is a specific exemption in the statute for public forum. The clerk can review that with you because the clerk has done certain things consistent with the statute, right, Ralph? That fits in the exceptions. Like it's also reflecting any action that was taken at is it at a city commission meeting? You know, then that can be, that's one of the exceptions.
MBTV used to do these interview
Yeah.
type thing, that's more specific, that's
using
like a.
City resources.
That's what
And we as a committee drafted a pamphlet explaining our reason behind the amendments. We're a volunteer committee.
well, you have your final report, so I mean,
Right.
that's where I would point.
I think it's more like a
where I would
chamber
point
or.
I mean, really, we're putting the amendments in there, we're not really giving any like reasoning behind it as much as we would.
Are you talking like about the chance to advocate?
Explain more than
Explain.
advocate, educate.
Okay. Okay,
Nick, when is the sunshine law restriction lift?
June 12th.
June 12th. So as far as it goes for presentations, I think we're talking, you know, actually, we probably, when it talks to some of these other organizations, I think we ought to think more about doing it after June 12th, so that any number of us can go and participate,
Together.
right?
Well, may I say something on that?
No, it's
The,
isn't this sunshine law, you know, items that are or foreseeably coming before the board and
yes, there.
once we voted our final
Right,
report,
but here's the thing,
we're done.
the city commission, I would suggest, depending on if you all concur, that the board needs to wait until after the city commission votes
Oh, yeah.
on which recommendations.
yeah.
The city commission will not be voting until July 24th, presumably. So, I think it's premature for the board, with all respect, you know, to start advocating for these, because you
Well,
have to see what
I
the
know.
city commission votes on.
The problem with that, Gene, is what we wanna do is we wanna get the public
Maybe
engaged
encourage
as soon
them
as
to-
possible, because they can then help influence the vote in July.
Influence the city
commission vote.
commission vote?
Sure. You know, they can say, hey, I like this, I don't like this.
Let's
That's
put
the
it
way
this-
that the government usually works.
let's put it this way, though. I mean, technically, as a board, you're still in effect or operative until June 12th. That's when the board sunsets. So the sunshine law and public records law and all applies to you until that date. We've also said in previous meetings that we don't have a problem with any of you meeting individually with the commissioners to express your position as to particular amendments. You know, we'll be doing our own briefings with the commission, but we discussed that at the last meeting, that there's nothing from prohibiting any of you from contacting your elected officials, you know, directly, you know, to talk about your,
But it can only be one of us meeting with the.
until June 12th. That's
Like
correct.
you couldn't go meet with Joe, but I
All
could
right.
meet with Joe and you can meet with Joe.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But after June, so here's the thing, is
Yeah,
I
I
think
think-
most of the advocacy, explaining, all that, a lot of that needs to happen before, after June 12th and before July, wherever, so
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So that the general public can start expressing opinions on this stuff. And also, the good thing is that we can meet with individual commissioners after, well, it doesn't have to just be one of us meeting with one commissioner. We can have two of us go.
I think that's better if we did it in
Yeah.
pairs, because
Yeah, absolutely.
you don't wanna just have one voice.
And I would just prefer, rather than calling it advocacy, that you want to.
Call it education.
Educate.
Yeah, and
Okay.
explain, and as Sam said, explain the board's reasoning for its recommendations.
Right.
Can you?
But I think Ron's point is a valid one. Candidly, I think his group has an ownership interest, if you will, in this document. And we spent a lot of time, many hours, defining what we believe is best for the city. It's an opportunity, I think, for us post June 12th to sit down, whether or not with individual commissioners, whether or not with MBU, whether or not with the chamber. Ultimately, maybe even with the editorial board of the Herald, to, let the people know what's coming first before the commission initially, and then secondly, what they may be voting for come November. And, there's a relatively short period of time between, the June and July date when the commission gives this their imprimatur one way or another. And then between that July date with summer and everything else and November and a presidential election, everything else that's going on, to catch the eye of the constituency out there.
Just one thought with regard to the editorial board in particular, might be something the board wants to discuss as far as who would you like to speak to the editorial board. Obviously, the editorial board can contact any of you and any commissioner or any of us. But as far as, I would just want to make sure, obviously the board can only act as a body. After today, you will have voted on your recommendation. So anything anyone says,
Yeah.
it's gonna be important that
Consistent with
it's
this, yeah.
consistent with the report.
Right.
But
I think the chair and vice chair should do the board, the editorial board. I think that's a proper role for the chair and vice chair. Have at it. But other meetings, other chambers and other stuff, I think any of us could represent the board. Whoever can at the time that scheduling allows.
Right, and as I said, we can have more than one person there, which will probably make
Right.
it more comfortable.
I mean, you already have our timeline from what happens from today to July, which is the last meeting that the commission has to vote on these.
Walk through that again, so get the exact dates on. Can you just tell me the?
Do you need those dates again? I didn't bring. Oh, okay, at the, no, I got it. Between now, we haven't scheduled them, but between now and, May, we will be scheduling individual briefings with the commissioners to go over the ballot questions and answer any questions they may have. At the May meeting, what's the date of the May meeting?
May 15th.
We'll have our first, first, let me back up a minute, because George had made a point last week that when the final report is presented to the commission, will that be in May? When, or April? When are we presenting?
May 15th.
Okay, because I think George had made a point that when the final report is presented to the commission, he or other members of the board may want to be there, at the public meeting to, in case they're asking any questions or to discuss their process. At that same meeting, we're also going to have a committee of the whole meeting, which is held in the city manager's large conference room, but is also a public meeting. So, and that's usually held at the lunchtime recess. It's a 1 to 2 hour meeting. And you're all invited to attend that as well. That really is the purpose of that meeting, is to get input from the commissioners as to any of the ballot questions or questions they may have in preparation of their final vote. At the June commission meeting, which is when, Ralph?
26th,
June 25th,
6th,
26th?
26th.
26, we have another commission of the whole meeting scheduled, just in case. As a buffer, again, public meeting held in the during the lunch recess, you're all invited to attend. So the commission, after, what our expectation is that after these two commission of the whole meetings, the commission may either take action at its June meeting or at its July meeting, but the purpose that we wanted to have those committee of the whole meetings
When's
that I.
July meeting, Bob?
Well, the
July
purpose I wanted to
24th.
have those committee of the whole meetings was to get 25th,
24.
24,
Why did I
sorry.
remember 26?
26th of June.
May 15th. Wait, I just want to
May
make sure.
15, June 26, July 24.
Thank you.
Right. So we wanted to give ourselves plenty of buffer in case the commissioners have questions as to, so that when they go for the final vote, we could just go for a final vote and be done with it. We're not drafting on the floor.
So
Right.
what's the soonest they might vote? Say June 26th?
It could be June, yeah,
So.
or it could be, I mean, I don't know, it could be as early as, if they don't feel they need another committee of the whole workshop, it could be as early as May, but I doubt it.
So
It may
if we
not
wanted to
succeed
do
on
the
20
meeting,
days.
I'm just thinking, what,
It's
and what,
no,
what's
no.
the date this, our committee sunsets?
We should try to.
June 12th.
Well,
And when are you transmitting our report
Oh,
to the commission?
We should be getting it before the
Yeah.
May.
I'm sorry, April 15th,
May
May
15th.
15th.
May 15th gets transmitted, okay.
Right,
Well.
Well, that's the date of a
The
meeting.
meeting, but it'll be.
Right.
Yeah,
transmitted
but you're gonna send it before that. though.
Yes.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
What-
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, what's the date?
the meeting agendas go out a week before the meeting, so I assume it'll be in the agenda then?
Yes, and
Yeah,
I mean, it would be.
But you guys will have
sooner,
already had.
We could send it out sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
It's-
going out
I mean, I
as
think
far
send it
as
as soon as you can.
Okay.
It's,
Right.
it's
Okay.
not,
residents right
We can do
now
that.
okay.
via email. I mean, I've already.
But you will do, you said between now and May, at some point, you're gonna do agenda briefings with each of
Right.
the commissioners.
Correct.
So technically, you're transmitting the report to them.
That's right.
In that meeting. Whenever those get scheduled.
Yeah,
The
and-
official transmission is the agenda package. And then the commission meeting.
And Ralph, we could issue it by LTC.
LTC,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, in the next few weeks, yeah.
That then,
yeah, I think that would be good, because,
If
if
it
we're
goes up
gonna
to get
meet
in
with a
before May.
commissioner, we would like them to have read it. before we sit
Yeah,
down.
of
I
course.
agree.
Okay,
Of course, yeah.
so you would like the report sent out as soon as possible
Yeah.
after today?
Yes.
Okay, can you make a motion?
I'm
so
so moved.
moved, so moved.
Okay,
Second,
unanimous? Okay.
unanimous.
I'm just gonna make the motion, I'm sorry.
Sam and Ron, and
Second.
all in favor?
I'm-
Any opposed? Okay, showed unanimous. And
Mr.
then our effort probably should start soon after that, but you wanna have your conversation with whoever you feel comfortable with
Right.
before May. So that cause in May is when they're really gonna start to
Yeah.
chew on it. May commission meeting, we should be present for that item.
Right, didn't you wanted to be present for that? I think you indicated.
I think
Can we get a
it,
time certain?
Okay,
So that we're not.
so,
We are.
well, it's gonna be before your committee of the whole. I
May-
suppose,
may
right?
I?
So it'll be
So
the
Ralph, I think for May, you maybe want a time certain for the members to be present.
Full request.
and you want it, I guess, before the committee of the whole meets, right? So,
That would be good.
you know, it's before.
Agreed.
In the morning.
Something like that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I actually already have a meeting set up with, Mayor Minor on May 8th.
Oh, good, okay, good.
I was originally his appointment, but then I think, I've got Commissioner Bob. Who's got Mayor Minor? Yeah, I don't know if you wanna join me.
I'm happy to join it, well, maybe do it together.
That's what I was gonna say. The meeting
Not
is.
before
now,
June.
and
Not before June.
Oh, not before June. Okay.
Right. Well, go
Yeah,
back to
so I have a meeting.
All gonna be-
with other stuff with
If
this
we
too.
basically,
I have no
problem with you doing it.
if we basically finish
that?
our work, voted on our final report.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
We have no meeting scheduled before the 16th. How is there something foreseeably coming before?
It's, you're not officially sunsetted until. And it's a
But
date
we-
in June, and so I would not recommend it.
Right. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, in May, a commissioner could foreseeably refer something back to you.
They
So that June 12th date is really your cutoff.
Ralph, is it the 12th, the June 12th?
Yeah,
Alright, so we should, at a minimum, I think as a committee, we should kind of schedule a sit down with the person who appointed us.
Yeah.
And then if
Each
you
of
are
it.
comfortable with others,
yes.
feel free. I mean, it's up to your schedule and availability.
Pre-June.
Yeah.
The individual,
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, I'd say before the May 15th meeting, so that they can all say that they've been briefed by their appointed rep and, you know,
Is there any questions?
agree, disagree, whatever they wanna say, it's their thing.
And to rest,
Well, this will be transmitted to them after today, correct?
Imminently, yeah, it's, you know, within days, I would say, you know.
Okay.
Before the meeting, and
We
then we
usually-
can.
We put June 30th on this, just to end it at the end of the month, so our report should.
June 30th.
That's
I
what we
think I
did.
remember that.
What is it, Rob?
We did June 30th to
For
end,
Sunset?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we wrote. at the
Was
end.
that on the resume? Cause I
The
don't know.
Reso
if I
said,
Oh, June 30th?
it says 6 months, but usually.
Listen, you don't
what we
wanna,
do is
you
end
don't
it
wanna
at the end
terminate
of
the
month.
committee sooner than you
Okay.
have
Well-
to either, because.
well, it would be good if we
Okay.
had the time.
put June 30th.
The tournament, well, then that gives us
Okay.
time before the June 26th to do other meetings. Uh, But if,
I think it has it in the
so
resume.
I'm
Okay.
thinking,
It's in the report. Thank you.
so we're stuck, so we're definitely, June 12th is not today then.
It's June 30th.
Okay, it's from March.
So we sunset June 30th, not June 12th?
June
June
30th.
30th, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess, could we, does this make sense to ask at the May 15th meeting for the commission? Yeah, I mean, there's two possibilities. One could be that they could say, we'd like you to work on this one some more, you know, for our next meeting. You can decide that at the committee of the whole, or they could say, okay, we don't need you guys to do anything more. In which case, maybe we should ask to be sunsetted at that, so that we can just go about the rest of our.
I would.
You know, the board, you can ask whatever you want. I think it introduces another layer of complication.
Guys, the
And I
legal
also think-
advice we're giving you is that you sunset on June 30th. So act
I
accordingly.
would just leave it that way.
I just looked at the resume, it is.
June 30th. Yeah.
But do we have to make a motion and vote on this?
On the report, we need to make a motion to
I will
accept
accept
the
motion
report
that we
as amended.
approve as amended.
Can I,
the
may I
final
just say
report.
one thing about the amendment?
Yes.
Oh, no.
What did we do?
One thing. No,
This is the amendment, George, that
Yeah,
you handed out on your third proposed addition where you reference enhanced transparency, ethics and electoral process. Because this is gonna be within the report, you are referencing, that's like your general summary, basically of what these items are, right? But I think you need to tweak it a little bit because for Amendment 5, which is the Charter 2.02 amendment, that's the compensation and the duty to request the ethics opinion. So it does fall under ethics, but the increasing in compensation doesn't fit under transparency, ethics and electoral process. So
I'm happy to take the words here, where I saw transparency in that, the salary is now very transparent.
you're right, but one of the chief purposes is, the chief purpose is increasing the
you
salary from the
suggest?
charter amendment. And amendment number 8, which is 207, the filling of vacancy. It certainly relates to
Electoral pro-
transparency
And electoral process.
and electoral process,
These are
Okay, I mean,
generic
I would-
topics, I'm just.
right, but it's still in the report, and we don't want anyone
What do you
to say that
suggest?
it's not.
Do you have a-
Just suggest after enhanced transparency, ethics and electoral process, take out the word and, say enhanced transparency, ethics, electoral process, and commission compensation.
Guys have a-
Yeah.
I do have one question. What if they choose to,
but-
sorry, continue. I thought we
On that same question,
decided.
though. I'm sorry, yeah, on that same, so, on that same question though, that did remind me, we have blanks here still.
Yeah, we
We
need
should
to
fill
ask
out
about
blanks.
that, yeah.
And so I have
You have a fill in the blank?
I have a feeling, but I also think the board may want to discuss it. So, as we discussed with you at your meeting in March, the commission, on March 13th adopted a resolution increasing, the stipend, the car allowance, and the cell phone allowance. And then also providing for a cost of living adjustment and grossing up to account for the increased, tax burden. So I have the final numbers from HR and I wanted to, I got them today. And so the number for the mayor is $59,041. 59041. The total for the office of commissioner is 59,638. 59638.
It's more.
It's more, and it's more because when the commission last increased its stipend under Mayor Gelber, the mayor asked that the office of mayor be excluded from that resolution. So the sort of the basis for that number
Yeah.
this time around was lower. So I just wanted the board to be aware of that because it will read a little funny.
Yeah.
That the commissioner's total compensation is more.
No, it's fair, but when we were doing this, we landed on 55 and 60,
That's right,
which is not that far off from
Right.
this.
right?
But this is just stipends and all that stuff.
Does this also,
No,
this is everything.
what did we end up on that?
Yeah, no, we
did.
put a cost of living not to, and by the way.
Not to exceed
I have a-
3% per
I have a
year.
Point on that as well, so I should mention.
CPI.
You gotta
What
define
page
which
is it,
CPI.
George? What page is it?
Yes,
That's on
and the
page
lesser
10.
of.
Yeah, it was the lesser of, but you know, when we kind of revisited this, we just said, all right, well, let's pick their number. Pop it in and make it a question. We could choose to correct this situation of the mayor and say 60 for commissioner and 65 for mayor. I'm not trying to open up box again, but it feels kind of weird to have these numbers be so precise and furthermore that the mayor's lower than the.
That's the weird part, right? I agree, and I think that our intention was that the mayor would have a small differential.
Yeah.
What about
We'll
if
make it an
they're
87.
putting
Well, I
the,
was gonna say 55 and 60.
well.
I'm sorry, 65 and 60.
65 and 60.
Right.
Well, now we're talking bigger numbers, but I would.
Not that much
Yeah,
though.
Another alternative,
Okay.
okay, is that we put them both at 59. At the same, and also we'll save some words here, because you won't have to say, you'll say mayor and commissioners with earnings of 59,000, it'll just say, it'll be one number. Because as it stands now, the commissioners are more, so there's no, and they voted for that already. So I think, and going over 60.
Not that they voted for it.
60.
No, but it,
You
yeah,
can't
it
go
can't be
back.
lower than what they're getting now,
But
because they would have to
they're
go out to
never
vote for
gonna
them
make
to get what they're
60
getting
for
now.
both.
60 for both is fine by
60
me,
for both, round up.
but you know,
I think
the
that,
differential,
I think that the mayor has more responsibilities. And I think that there should be some recognition of that in their compensation. That's my view.
Julie,
I don't disagree with you. I think that, and it's not unreasonable, we're not talking about a much larger.
I think George's numbers are good numbers, 65 and 60.
So the explanation would be, this is what you're getting, the explanation would be, this is what they're getting now.
65
plus-
and 60 work.
How would you articulate the higher for the
Round it
mayor?
off for clarity.
Well, it's not rounded off. I mean, it is the 60, but not the 65. Like, how would you
Well, I think
explain?
Sam, I think Sam
it's
just,
the
I think
role
Sam
of
just
the
said it.
ceremonial head of the organization and
Okay.
runs the meetings and
The mayor
attends
has
a lot
additional
more
duties.
events and activities and
Okay.
receives more mail and email than
More
rest of the
responsibility.
65K and
65 and 60. I'm
I
good
can
either
live with
way.
that, I can live with
I'm
that.
good with either way.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Sam,
One
second by Elizabeth, 65 and 60 is the fill in the blanks.
What is, can I just ask a quick question? What did they vote for themselves? What were the numbers?
Right.
Those are the numbers I just gave you.
That
Michael,
excludes their,
It's what now?
No,
No,
that
it's
includes your
all
salary.
it's all.
that's all in.
Of the
That's all
number,
it-
the 59,
Yes.
0,
That's all.
or 1 includes
That's
everything.
all.
Except their
Yeah.
office budget.
Okay, got it.
So your vote will also authorize, I need to change the narrative description of 202 to reflect what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay,
We took their number, tried to, reconcile it a little
Yeah,
more
rounded it
appropriately,
off.
rounded off and then
and
differentiated.
added
it
5,000 for the mayor because it was, so it'll be amending the ballot question and the text, but more significantly, it'll be amending the report that you,
there.
that
If you
you're
want, I
putting
can
out.
review that the language here, all this stuff.
Okay,
And then on the CPI,
CPI, I want to define that it's CPI.
Would you like-
Fort Lauderdale or whatever, that doesn't mean the question, that could be in your text.
in
In
the
the
text,
text,
right.
In the not the text of the report, even the text of the.
the text of the
Yeah,
charter.
that's
charter,
what we're talking
yeah.
about, right,
Yeah.
right now it just says CPI is issued by the US Department of Labor.
No, but you need to define it to the Fort Lauderdale.
It's
or
the Miami, Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
West Palm Beach, and it's the CPI for all urban consumers, I think is the one you're looking for.
That's the one you
Okay.
want.
Yeah.
Cause otherwise it's a different number.
1984 equals 100 or something like that.
Can we go back to, yeah, of course. The position of the whole meeting, because I thought I wasn't finished, and then we just kind of jumped in that. I wanted to ask. Is that okay? We go back and revisit that. I want to just try to understand something. So what I understand is that you all will conduct this meeting, which gives them the opportunity to provide input on our recommendation, yes? So they could push back, they could approve, they could have no comment. Conceivably, but then we'd have about a month and a half before our committee typically sunsets that week. So maybe this is naive of me, but wouldn't it make sense for them to kind of, if something didn't sit well for whatever reason, to kind of like puts it back to us so that we could potentially work with the commission to land on something that could potentially get the voters to support our recommendation?
I think the challenge is time is short. Now, could they conceivably refer one of these measures back to the committee? That's possible. But there's, limited periods.
So,
Now that would happen probably between May and June where we're
Right.
still a month.
correct,
And
that's
so
why I.
we would then,
like
if that
6
were to
weeks is
happen,
plenty of
we could
time.
maybe try to schedule a meeting and do what we need to do to get an answer back to them before
Right.
their June
So-
26th meeting.
Just to be proactive, could we potentially agree to a meeting date and time and then let them know that we're ready? Potentially, if we
We can do that,
need
we can
to
do a doodle poll.
revisit something to show some. Measure of like solidarity or, so I don't know, something.
That's a good point, Julian. Maybe we can do the doodle poll like we've been doing other meetings for a June date.
Yeah.
I'm
Julie-
sorry,
Julie
I
makes-
know we don't
Julie
wanna
makes a
make-
great
We
point,
don't
but-
want another meeting.
No, but
This is what we anticipated, but Julie makes a great point. In May, I think the chief deputy was trying to say is that what we would expect is that any comments or revisions that the commission would have would be directed to the drafters and be brought back to the committee of the whole. But it is conceivable that they could want the charter review committee to discuss something more fully or whatever. And they could address this to a meeting. Now, the issue here is time. Because although it seems like we have a month and a half between meetings, we have to get we have to convene this committee. We have to prepare those amendments and we have to get them on the agenda. So, but it is conceivable. I think that's at the commission's pleasure, no?
So, Mr.
So-
Chair, I have a question. If this leads to this also, so they could potentially take part of that and say, we don't want that, but
Yes.
we want that.
Yeah, that's to
They
them.
can do
I'm
whatever
just-
they want.
That's where we would come back.
Now, the similar question, but in a different vein. So this committee of the whole meeting on May 15th, you say we should be present.
Mhm.
Will there be a role for us as a board to be able to advocate with the commission? Why we felt strongly about the sale of public land needs to go to referendum or something like that, if it's
That's what
if
we're
it's being
there for.
debated.
Yeah, there's always
That's
room
what
for
we're-
public comment at these
But
meetings.
that's, public comment is different
Then a
than
board,
participating.
I also,
That's,
yeah,
and I don't wanna overstep, but.
That's
it's
at the
one of those
commission's
things-
discretion, but I don't understand why they wouldn't want to hear from you.
right, and I think it's appropriate for you to reach out to the mayor. We can give him a heads up that the chair and or vice chair will be reaching out. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, but I think it's appropriate that they hear, we spent the hours, we should be able to advocate why it is we landed where we landed and not
Right.
just.
But
watch
if the
it
purpose,
happen.
sorry, but if the purpose is for the public to weigh in, then I feel like we're sort of now, we're
I think
not
the board,
stepping on their toes and superseding that.
I think at that meeting, it's a public meeting. They're still chewing through and digesting what we're giving them. So
Yeah.
we should be there to try to help them.
I also think it's appropriate for the
Appropriate
board
just for
to
them.
to make,
To give their.
even make the presentation if
Right.
you want, you know.
That's
if you
what
want to.
that's what I'm thinking is that we should have a role in
I
the May
think-
meeting.
Yeah,
And then in July, at that point, that's their public meeting. People can,
right.
you know, have their
Right.
public input. We can come as the public,
I
but
mean,
by then, we hope it's pretty much settled. on
I
what
think
it is.
traditionally, isn't that something the chair has done in the past?
I think the chair makes a
Charter review, the
presentation.
chair should make a
Right,
presentation.
not a committee of the whole, but at the meeting, when
meeting,
there is
at
the
the
formal,
commission meeting.
the chair gets
I
up
think you
and
should.
takes the lead.
Yeah.
I think you should,
I thought
George.
that's what you
Yeah,
requested
what we're gonna do, you
time
and I,
certain.
we're gonna get up
Yeah.
and kind of,
So you have requested a time certain
Yes.
morning,
Right.
so that's that portion.
Yeah,
correct.
Right,
yeah, but just remember, the
And then
purpose
at
of
the
the
committee of the whole, when they're
right.
gonna, I suspect what will happen is they're not gonna debate it on the day.
They will, but the purpose of committee of the whole is really for them to be able to digest as a body. And there's 9 ballot questions.
Right.
You know, and a limited amount of time to cover it. So really, the purpose is for them to digest these. So if they want your input as to how you came about
Yeah,
this,
we're
that's
here.
great. But it's about, it's really their chance as a body to really see these for the first time.
Sorry, I don't think there was a vote of the 65,000.
We had a motion.
Yeah, we had a motion.
So motion that all in favor?
and the,
Aye.
and the CPI, and the CPI.
So-
And the CPI.
So
And
the
the
CPI, amend the question, amend the report.
Correct.
Amend the question, the text and the.
Yeah, right.
Then
No.
should we plan to attend on May 15th?
Yes. Yes. May 15th at the commission meeting.
You're gonna give
and
us
then
a
at the committee of the
time.
whole. And start time certain in the morning, you'll let us know what that, I'm sorry, so you got the vote? All in favor, aye, no opposed, no's, okay, unanimous. So yeah, on May 15th, we would be there, you know, we should, you know, all be present at the meeting and, you know, we can present it and then that's their opportunity to thank us for our work as well.
Commission starts at what time?
8:30.
8:30.
Something.
But that's not the time certain we want.
We
We
want
want a time certain a little later.
You want time certain in the morning, or you guys?
No,
time
morning,
certain
morning, in the
before
morning,
committee of the whole?
but before the committee of the whole
That's like
meeting,
10, maybe.
whenever that is.
10.
Ideally, we would do it and then roll right in.
Yeah, yeah.
It used to be that a time certain was, it's certain that it won't be heard at this time.
Well, it's during the recess.
It's still,
Probably still is, right?
it still is.
Ralph, will you make the request? Or would you?
When we print the agenda, we will.
You can say it's a request of the board.
Yeah.
If you wanna make it that way, we'll.
I'll make with a letter to commission, say we, at this, we would also
Or request
request that.
Yeah, we'll notify.
It should be a time certain just before they break to go to.
Well, it's up to the mayor, it's up to the mayor's office,
It
correct?
is.
Yeah,
So-
that's correct.
so It's just a discussion with Minor and he's going to be easy to deal with. I
I don't want to do
think.
something at 11:30, so then it's right before.
That's what I
That
meant,
would
right,
make
right,
most
right, we
sense.
roll, you know, do that and then roll into the committees.
That's also good for people here, they don't have to see people meet.
Yes, that's,
Except I do.
and I don't do 8:30 minutes anymore.
Want to renew my motion
Uh,
to accept the report?
so now we have an accept of the report. Any-
Hold on, George, I just wanted to ask, it's minor. On the, before the people that appeared before this committee, do you want me to add Commissioner Magazine?
Yes,
Okay, Sam, sorry, you're ready.
It's all right. Already made it.
so you have the
Okay,
additions,
go
we're
ahead.
gonna reorder the names, you know, name
That's fine.
first,
We can- yeah, we
the
can-
amendment
yeah,
as
we
recommended
discussed
by
on
you
it.
guys. And the amendment to the salary as we just voted on. Yeah,
Where
that's
did
our
we
report,
decide we're putting?
and you delegate to me to review to make sure it's.
Yes.
Needs,
So I have a motion by
we got
Sam,
Sam,
second,
food second,
I'll
that was
second.
Elizabeth. Okay, so Sam and Elizabeth, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No,
Do we have a place? for it?
so unanimous as well, all the way through. All the way through, and guys, it is our report now, so we advocate the report.
It's only been a year and a half and
Listen,
I calculated it was somewhere around 60 hours, but I think it may be,
I will tell you that, you know, 8 or 9 questions is about where I thought we would land, so that's good. We have some stuff you needed, as the commission needed to get resolved, like the vacancies and things like that. We've put some stuff out here that's, you know, a little bit thought provoking and out of the box, let them, you know, chew on it a little bit. And then, you know, there's some protections I think that are to the benefit of the residents.
And you were a great leader and you steered us through this, these troubled waters.
Great committee,
And
it was a lot of fun and let's hope that
A lot of fun.
all of these, yeah.
Get a life.
You convinced me to vote my
It's been
mail.
real, but it hasn't been real fun.
You convinced me to vote my mail.
If you need anything else of us,
Did you send me a date? Proposed
or
date
do the poll, yeah,
that'll-
for the June. Okay.
We're gonna get a new, it's gonna go out again,
You're gonna let us
residents want to know,
Route
yeah,
'cause
and
I know there are gonna
know
be people that are gonna, I'm
for
already getting
May
emails
fifteenth.
asking.
I'll send
And I'm
you
like,
that.
And you'll send a new
Can we make
final
another-
report
and
with the
we'll
revisions.
format it.
I'm gonna make a statement, hopefully somebody will take it up as a motion. That we should include in the request for all these other requests. That the parking benefit to this committee sunset on December 31st.
I don't care.
2050.
I noticed I didn't say it here.
Of 2050.
Parking, parking.
Not for me, but there are others in the room that I see the best. Let's not point any fingers at anybody, guys. Let's just, let's be unanimous.
They're just gonna tow your car, but
Elizabeth doesn't.
Sure.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
Remember how that.
I just have two thoughts.
You can strike that from the record. I was
You
just.
can have mine.
One is, in deference to Rick, who was just appointed city attorney, I'd like to.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, that is important.
Unanimously appointed.
And I've worked with him on the CRA for about a year or so, so I know him pretty well.
And the second, for those of you that don't know, is that Nick has decided to stay as chief deputy city attorney.
Yes.
So
No, I just want to say, I want to give Rick the opportunity also to make any non-substantive, give Rick a chance to go through the report and particularly on any,
Language.
any specific changes to language. Again, non-substantive, but I want to give him an opportunity to weigh in,
Before it goes final.
if that's okay with the board.
One other kind of procedural thing. So when you end up submit the report, which we just said, as soon as possible to the commission. Will we be CC'd on? How will we know that
Yeah.
the commissioners?
The committees around.
yeah, LTC.
We will transmit it by LTC, which
Yeah.
goes out to the whole world, and we will let the board know that it's gone out.
And it'll be
We will
posted
not
on the
leave you out.
website as well.
Yeah, and that will be a formatted report with all the ballot questions and charter text that you all have approved.
But what are we gonna do with all the meetings?
And the chair would signs this.
I'll find the. That's why final report gotta come to the final edit.
It's good.
But it's a good job. Listen, in the report, I'll tell you that the section here where it says thank you, they did not write that. I did. But we should thank the staff and the folks that. were involved with this as well. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Dean had all the answers.
Yeah.
Nick has all the, all great, it's amazing.
And
That's Gene's third charter review.
Well,
Or
and,
third.
and don't, let's not.
You know,
forget
don't ask
Mark
him.
over here.
Don't ask him.
He's had to sit next to me for a
Yeah,
long
She wrote the
time.
1993 charter.
Young Rich the Pico. See you next week.
Guys, thank you.
Thank
Move to adjourn.
This is your second adjourn is the appropriate motion. So we've adjourned at 6:35.
all right, now
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Wait,
It's been real.
It's been a lot of
It's been fun.
But not.
number.
Is the.
Did you get his number? Do I have his number?
I have Ron.
I think so.
So I'll send it to you in the same format,
I
and
don't have.
Sandra or whoever.
I do.
That's good.
305.
1-8.
Accident, right?
1-8 probably.
305.